police officers and medical personnel assembled by our flag. Once we get things rolling with the flag, we'll get into the actual ceremony itself. But thank you, everybody, for being here today. We appreciate that the weather has contributed to just a gorgeous day to remember what is a very solemn event. So thank you.
Detail, up 10.
Attention companies, today we lower our flag, past staff, and pause for a moment of silence to honor the memory of fallen firefighters and other first responders who made the ultimate sacrifice responding to the World Trade Center on September 11th of 2001. We recall their courage, compassion, and dedication to duty as they willingly advanced towards danger rather than retreat. We also honor the memory of our fallen brother and sister firefighters, police officers, emergency medical personnel, and the service men and women who have given their lives before and since that day protecting others. Today we recognize you and we thank you. Your legacy and the standard you established is our great inheritance. We will never forget.
Parade, Chris!
Thank you for joining us this morning. At this time, it is my honor and privilege to introduce our mayor, Craig Greenberg.
Thank you very much, Chief. It's great to be with all of the men and women of Louisville Fire this morning, of LMPD, those from EMS, and all the first responders around our community this morning and around our country. Thank you very much for your service. It's one of the great honors to be able to call all of these great responders that are first responders that are part of Louisville Metro government, my colleague as mayor. It is truly an honor to serve alongside each and every one of you. I've gotten to see you all in action so many times over the past several years, and every day I wake up and go to sleep impressed and grateful for the work that each of you all do. It's hard to believe that 9/11, a day that changed us as a nation, that changed us as people, was 24 years ago today. Like everyone else old enough, I clearly remember that day, where I was when I first heard the news, when I watched the towers fall. And this year, a few months ago, Rachel and I had the opportunity to be in New York, and we made our first visit to the 9/11 Memorial. And being at that memorial just brought it all back clearer than ever. Seeing stories about the heroic first responder, remembering things that we had forgotten, learning new things, hearing stories about the people who perished and the people who saved lives, seeing pictures from firefighters at Engine 207, where my grandfather once served many decades before 9/11. Those memories are etched in all of our minds. They're preserved in history at the 9/11 Museum. And we, on days like today and every day, we mourn the loss of the 343 firefighters who lost their lives that day. And we remember their legacy. And we thank those who wear the uniform every day since that day, today, and into the future, including those here in Louisville. Our first responders are the living legacy of those heroes who embody an amazing commitment to service. They run to the emergency when others are running away. And just like the first responders in New York on 9/11, our first responders here in Louisville show up to work every day, not knowing what they will be asked to do, but prepared to do whatever comes their way. They show up, they help, and for that, I know I speak on behalf of everyone in this entire city. We are grateful. We are thankful. Whether it's an apartment fire in Phoenix Hill, whether it's a business burning in Shively, whether it's a semi-truck hanging off of Interstate 65, whether it's a crime scene, whether it's an active shooting, whether it's a medical emergency, our first responders run into action, save people's lives, and inspire us every day. And that serves as another reminder, another piece of legacy of 9/11 that we should remember in times of crisis and tragedy, that the first response belongs to the first responders. And what comes next is on all of us. All of us have a role and responsibility to respond as well following moments of crisis. It's on us to provide support for survivors, for families of those who we've lost. It's on us to look for more ways to prevent and anticipate future crises and tragedies. It's on us to work together. And that's one of the reasons why it's important to come together on days like 9/11, to commemorate first responders for everything that they do and the commitment that they make to us. To remind all of us that we can and we must do more. And we're working on that every day here in Louisville. We often hear people say, never forget 9/11, and I think that's critically important. We should never forget. We should also never forget what happened right after 9/11. We came together as a country, unified in ways that I'm not sure we've been unified since. Let's remember the way that we came together as a country. And let's come together once again. Let's come together. Following 9/11, we came together to fight the horrible international violence and terrorism that hit our country. Let's come together now. Come together to end the violence that is plaguing our country still today. Political violence, street violence, shootings in schools, shootings at our banks, far too much gun violence that is plaguing our city here in Louisville, plaguing other cities, states, our entire country. Let us come together. Let us unite and find common solutions. Let us unite across our city. Let us unite across our country. Let's unite across the entire world as we strive for peace in all of our neighborhoods. May the memories of those lost on 9/11 be a blessing we will never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had an academy class that graduated just 2 weeks ago, and I spoke at that day, and I mentioned empathy. Empathy as a quality that is absolutely necessary for a good firefighter. And I believe it's true for any first responder, police, EMS, firefighter. That was personified 24 years ago today on September 11th. The type of empathy required, that care for somebody else, to recognize the suffering in others and realize that you can do something to improve it and to run towards it. Think about the folks that were on that Flight 93. They had a choice. They could sit quietly, but they knew what was going on. The first two flights, they didn't know what was going on, but United 93, they did. And they made a choice to do something, saying, our lives are already forfeit, but we can do something to help and save others. That requires empathy. That requires love. All of the folks, whether at the Pentagon or in New York City, that saw those terrible catastrophes and ran towards it. It's not a paycheck that makes you run towards disaster like that. I promise you that. It is love. It is love for our society, who we are as a people. It is love for your fellow man. It is love for your profession. Love that drives people to sacrifice for others, to say there is somebody out there that is suffering. Maybe they're sick. Maybe they're just scared. But I can go and do something about it. I can try to improve their situation. That requires love. How do we remember September 11th all these years later? How do we honor them? What do we do? Every good speech is supposed to have a call to action, right? So here it is. Remember those that we lost. All of the people that were taken from us that day, whether they were just going to work, getting on a plane, or rushing towards disaster to try to help others. Remember them. Remember those that died because of the 9/11 illnesses and disease. We've lost more firefighters to the 9/11 illnesses than we did on 9/11. Remember all of our military personnel that because of what happened that day, they went out to war and were taken from us. But that's not enough. Just like Mayor Greenberg just said, we've got to remember September 12th. We've got to remember the actions that we all took as a people, acts of kindness and love. Whether it was rushing out, I remember I was on Truck 8, and we all went as a company, Truck 8 and Engine 10, to go donate blood. Unfortunately, as it turned out, it wasn't needed out there, but it's always needed around here. Acts of kindness, acts of service to others. That's what we do every day. You remember them, you honor them by choosing kindness over anger, choosing compassion over hate, and choosing love every chance that you get. So to all of this community that we get the honor to serve, to all of my colleagues throughout police and EMS, and especially to all the members of the Louisville Fire Department that I'm so honored to serve along. I love each and every one of you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our ceremony today. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. And again, go forth and choose love.
FDR class? Yep. There's a deeper that's the grocery store we went to.
You go, Frank. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
I appreciate your kindness.
Oh no, it's okay. How's your new guy doing?
He's doing great. I'm kind of happy.
He'll be good.
He'll be good.
He'll be good. He'll be good.
What's really good about it? He was my choice.
He'll be good. He once he gets into the rhythm of stuff and he figures it out.
Yeah, he's just got to learn all those little the million little things that I could tell him,
Right.
but
Until
it's not going to mean anything until he actually feels it.
yeah.
So, but all the basic stuff he's got down. I mean, he asks a million questions. I'm happy. Pardon me?
Yeah, I noticed when we were at the shoot, he was good. He was asking questions, moving around, and I'm like, I got this. Now, the funny part about it was, I get back to the station, they're like, Frank, can you make a pack out of this? And I was like, I didn't shoot enough for a pack. We talked for a pack, but
together the pieces of the puzzle. Average citizens are overwhelmed with the grief and helplessness. That day our security was questioned. Our resilience as a nation has been evident ever since. I'm proud of all those men and women who sacrificed everything that day so that the world would know that the citizens of the United States of America would defend its freedoms with our lives if necessary. Terrorists may harm us with their actions, but can never hinder our resolve to become a better country. As an older American who lived through this life-changing event, we have a responsibility to explain this tact to coming generations so that they will appreciate and love the country the way that we do. God bless this great country where we may not always agree, but where we respect each other's opinions. God bless America and those men and women who stand with us here today, dedicated to protecting us from the evil in this world. It is always appropriate to honor our military, veterans, police, EMTs, firefighters, and other government employees for whom it's not just a job, but it's a calling. Thank you for your service. We will never forget the day our lives changed so drastically. More importantly, we will never forget those who unjustly lost their lives that day, and we must continue to strive for unity and peace. Thank you.
At this time, Jeffersontown Fire Department Major Jonathan Baker.
Good morning. At 8:46 a.m., New York City, American Airlines Flight 11 interrupted the morning sky as it struck the North Tower of the World Trade Center complex. Fire and smoke grew from the impact in large plumes. A tragic accident. 17 minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower. This was no accident. A nation tuned in, shocked and scared. At that very moment, 770 miles away in Louisville, Kentucky, I sat on the living room floor, home from school sick, watching the TV with my father. I remember being confused, not fully understanding the extent of what I was seeing, but I felt it. I felt it through the TV, and I felt it through my dad. I looked at him and asked, "What's happening?" His eyes never left the TV. "Things are going to change," he said. I was 11 years old on September 11, 2001. At that age, the world was supposed to feel simple. My biggest worry should have been about school, friends, and what games we were playing. But that Tuesday morning, Dad was right. The world was about to change, and so was I. Seeing the smoke engulf the sky, papers floating all around like confetti, poor souls that leapt in preference of one certain demise over another. I was 11, and like everyone else in the country at the same time, this was now our reality. 102 minutes after the first tower was struck, both towers crumbled to the ground. The nearby area for blocks was overcome with debris and dust. Men and women stumbled, covered in thick dust. Other men and women, some in white and blue buttoned-up shirts, rushed around, aiding to others, pouring water on them to clean out their eyes, covering up their wounds with bandages, placing them on stretchers, carrying them away. My dad pointed to the television. "Do you see those people? I nodded. Those are EMTs and paramedics, the ones that you said you wanted to be. He was right. Since I was a young child, I had wanted to be a paramedic before I even knew what the job title was or what it even entailed. Work on an ambulance, I would say to anyone who would listen. At that moment, I was bearing witness to what would further solidify my course in this life. As I witnessed in real time the fire and others burn out, the fire in me was lit. Things were about to change. Firefighters, police officers, EMTs, and paramedics never asked any questions that morning. They just acted, responded, and walked towards danger for complete strangers. That's what they do, my dad told me. They show up so others don't have to. And that's what we do, and that's what you do. You show up for complete strangers, no questions asked, because that's who you are. In the midst of this tragedy, the days, weeks, months that followed, things did change. Among all the emotions, the sadness and fear, people came together. American flags flew high, and they were everywhere. We as Americans stood together, putting differences aside and uniting. We were proud. On that 8th anniversary of 9/11, I was 19 years old, a newly certified EMT, stoking that fire that was lit those short years ago. On the 23rd anniversary of 9/11, I found myself at a conference, now a seasoned paramedic and newly appointed division chief of EMS training with Jeffersontown Fire. It was that day, 23 years later, almost to the exact minute of that tragedy, that I met a retired FDNY EMS chief who was one of the first responders on scene and served in command roles at Ground Zero. Our conversation was brief, but as I told him it was an honor to meet him, he said likewise and congratulated me on a recent promotion. I told him thank you, and I could not have done it without him. He looked at me confused. I then shared with him that story of that 11-year-old boy sitting on the floor that September morning. He smiled and reached out my hand. As we shook hands, he told me to keep showing up without question because someone out there would not be able to do it without me, and someone out there could not do it without you. 24 years later, here we are, first responders, police, firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics, all walks of life, all different perspectives, but all with the same common goal, to show up without question, to be there so others don't have to bear witness to tragedies that unfold before us. To the brave men and women who responded that day without question, thank you from the bottom of my heart. To the brave men and women that lost their lives that day for complete strangers, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your selfless sacrifice will never be forgotten. You have lived on through me and my brothers and my sisters, and I will teach my son of your sacrifices as well, so when I'm gone, you will continue to live on. What a huge ripple you have made in such a large pond. Some people never even break the surface. Thank you.
At this time, Liz Maxson, Intelligence Analyst with the FBI Louisville office.
Good morning. My name is Liz Matson, and at the end of this month, I will have had the privilege of working for the FBI for 29 years. Back in 2001, I had barely been in the Bureau for 5 years. I was a very young intelligence analyst. I'm a small town girl from the middle of Kentucky. I got my degrees here in the state, and I was fortunate enough to get to go work for the FBI. And I got to do my dream job of working counterterrorism. I was in a unit that worked on investigations of the Al-Qaeda organization, headed up by Osama bin Laden. And I was also with a sister unit that worked all of the groups that supported Al-Qaeda. Thank you. Let me kind of set the scene. Back in the late 1990s and early 2000s, these organizations were intent on causing harm to Americans and U.S. interests all over the world. So we were very busy. There at the headquarters building, there is a command post that is activated anytime there is a terrorist attack, either here or overseas. We ended up in there so often they gave up and just moved us into that space permanently. We did not have a regular office. We sat in a huge bullpen area. It had a glass conference room and a couple of side offices for managers, and there are TVs on all day long, all around. This is a very big open space with a lot of type A personalities who desperately want to get the bad guy. So it was a rather rowdy environment. And at this point, I'd like to introduce you to somebody. My supervisor during most of those years was a special agent named John J. Hess. We called him Jack because John J. Hess was a junior and he didn't want to be confused with his dad. Jack was an accountant from New Jersey with a huge booming voice and a big laugh. He decided to follow his father into law enforcement. His father had been a police officer, and he became a special agent about the time I joined the Bureau. Jack led our team on many different investigations, and he always did so with a quiet listening and a sense of humor. He was the biggest prankster in the room. You never knew when a football was going to hit you in the head or something was going to jump out of your desk. Jack did everything he could to keep things light because our topic of work was very serious. When you think of that day, anybody who I think was in law enforcement or first response community that was participating in 9/11 always remembers that day and maybe those specific moments. My father used to sometimes you had an event in life that would really change you and you would remember that forever. And I didn't really understand that until September 11th. He was talking about the day Elvis died, but for me that day started out like any other. It was a gorgeous day, kind of like today, big, beautiful blue sky. I had an early meeting, and I was in that big room in the glass conference room, so we could all see these, and while we were talking, we saw the first plane hit the North Tower. And when that happened, we were like, oh God, this is terrible. We figured the FBI would respond to help anyway, just because even in accidents, we have people who are very well trained to do evidence recovery and help in accidents. And we all wanted it to be an accident. Nobody wanted to think the worst. A few minutes later, we all stopped talking because we all know that we are facing the worst. When the plane hit the second tower, everybody just got up from the meeting. Everybody in the big room stopped what they were doing, and we all came together to start talking about assignments, who we were going to contact, what we needed to do to help. And it's really hard to describe the fear and chaos that people have that you shove down because you are so focused on doing the job. But that was a scary day. I think one of the worst parts of it was when we lost communication with New York. We were constantly on the phone with New York, talking to New York. Many of our New York agents were responding to the Trade Center towers, and several people that we worked directly with were running toward the towers to help people after the second plane hit when we lost all cell phone coverage. There was also just a lot of chaos that came from that lack of communication as FAA was trying to desperately figure out where their planes were. Because in this chaos, several planes had been grounded, several planes had been diverted. So figuring out where the missing planes were was rather traumatizing. We had a task force officer with our group who was from the FAA, and he was very helpfully calling out the times of when missing planes should have been landing in Washington, D.C. So 10 minutes out for flight 285, 15 minutes out for another flight. And he kept calling flight 93. And we didn't know until later that those brave passengers had taken care of that plane. The day itself is very crystal clear. You remember those moments. The aftermath was a blur. None of us went home that night. They evacuated the building. They evacuated the city the best they could. It was very hard when the bridge is closed down and the Pentagon is burning, which it did for several days. But we stayed. We were used to that. Most of us had worked weekends and nights, and that was just a constant for us. Some of us had cots under our desk because that was just what we did. But the aftermath becomes a blur when every day bleeds into another. And time goes on, and people forget, and people are hired who didn't experience this and don't understand what people did go through. My friend Jack had been promoted to be the head of the Joint Terrorism Task Force at our Washington field office just a month before the 9/11 attacks. Jack was one of the first responders at the Pentagon, and he stayed there trying to help rescue, then do recovery, and then do evidence recovery. 17 years after the attack, 2018, my friend Jack gets sick. He gets really sick. And they cut out a huge tumor from his pancreas. And he does better for a couple of years. Then in August of 2023, we lost Jack. And I think that's what I hate the most about these attacks. We lost so many innocent souls that day, but we continue to lose our heroes, the people who ran toward danger. Our police officers, our firefighters, our EMTs, our first responders, our state, local, and federal partners, all the people who will run to help and who would do it again, even knowing the consequences. So thank you for letting me share my story about Jack. Please be safe, and please remember our first responders, because we still have people who are suffering from sicknesses that were caused in the aftermath of that terrible day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time this morning. As we remember the events of that September 11 morning, it is important to never, ever forget. I am Mayor Carol Pike, and we join together today to compassionately honor and remember the 2,975 individuals who were killed on September 11, 2001. In the terrorist attacks on America, as well as those who were injured during the attacks, and the many who rose in service, the first responders, volunteers, rescue, and recovery workers, uniformed safety personnel, and the hundreds of thousands of others who serve or have served in our armed forces here at home and overseas. I personally want to thank today Richard Dunn, Major Jonathan Baker with the Jeffersontown Fire Department, Liz Matson with the FBI Louisville office, and sharing your story with us this morning. This 9/11 Remembrance Plaza was constructed as a permanent and constructive way for individuals to annually remember and pay tribute to those lost and injured on 9/11, and to help recall and rekindle the spirit of the unity and compassion that existed in America and in many other nations immediately following the 9/11 attacks. In the words of President George W. Bush, one of the worst days in American history saw some of the bravest acts in American history. We'll always honor the heroes of 9/11. Here at this hallowed place, we pledge that we will never forget their sacrifice. Thank you.
At At this time, presentation of the wreath. EMS Sergeant Amanda Cobb.
At 9:37 a.m. on September 11th, 2001, hijackers deliberately crashed American Flight 77 into the Pentagon. 59 souls on board died, along with 159 military personnel and civilian souls died.
Deputy Fire Chief Joey Klum.
At 10:03 a.m., after learning of the attacks, passengers on United Airlines Flight 93 launched a counterattack on hijackers aboard their plane to try to seize control of the aircraft. In response, the hijackers crashed the plane into an empty field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where 40 souls on board died. In total, 343 firefighters and paramedics died, along with 23 New York City police officers and 37 Port Authority officers.
Jeffersontown Fire Chaplain Chris Billiter will lead us in the closing prayer, followed by Cynthia Kennard singing God Bless America.
Will you pray with me? Father, after so much time, we confess it is easy, if not to forget, but to lose sight. To lose sight of the tragedy of that day. To lose sight of those that gave everything for the sake of others. Yet today we remember and we honor. We honor those that ran into their deaths in hopes of rescuing someone. We honor those that treated and served others on the darkest day of their life. We honor and remember those that willingly gave the ultimate sacrifice. And we remember what it felt like as a country in the days following this tragedy. Father, we remember because we often don't feel it right now. So we ask God that in this day when we have been once again reminded of the realities of those that would choose horrific violence to fight against the freedoms that this country offers, that we might once again view each other as neighbors, that you might give us the strength and wisdom to put differences aside and remember and celebrate that which we have in common. We ask that you might strengthen us to not fall into cynicism and despair, but instead, we might find hope. Ultimately in you, the one who loves us and creates us, but also in the hope and in the idea of this country. Hope that we are indeed better together. So as we are about to be blessed by the hearing of a wonderful song, today we make it our prayer. Not a demand, saying, God, you must bless America, but instead our heartfelt supplication, God, would you please bless America with unity, with love, and peace. I pray this in the one who set the example of laying down his life so that others might live. Christ Jesus. Amen.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, like with God bless America, my home, sweet home. From the mountain to the prairies, to the oceans, right with love. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
On behalf of everyone out there, we want to thank you for coming and being a part of this ceremony. This concludes the 9/11 Remembrance Ceremony. Please feel free to walk around the plaza, come up here and share a conversation with our speakers today. And we thank you for coming out. Thank you.